Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Checking in on the MJ sector, so we got some bounce, but I'm going to summarize the entire sector with this initial statement so I don't have to say it on every single chart. The bulls have to prove themselves with follow through. We have to see hourly higher lows and higher highs. Any individual name that does not do that tomorrow and break the high of today, that's a red flag for the bulls. We must see follow through. Even if we get follow through with an hourly higher low and higher high, we zoom out to daily charts and we look for daily lower highs to form. The bulls have a long road ahead of them to prove themselves in this sector. The S&P 500 formed a 4-hour higher low. It's been performing as anticipated as far as the current tightening range. Keep an eye on the market videos for a big guide, a general guide as to what's going on with the market as a whole. There's potential bearish entries approaching us in the MJ sector. If we are just looking for daily lower highs to form, these are two Fs. If we are looking for daily lower highs to form, which is the most likely scenario, and if the S&P 500 breaks the August lows, which in my opinion is a 50-50 heading into the start of September, that's going to be a lot of downward pressure on the sector. If the S&P 500 holds up and heads back towards the all-time high and breaks resistance in the short term, then this bounce can get some more follow through. But throw SPY out of the equation, we're still just looking for daily lower highs to form here. So after getting stopped out yesterday from some initial bounce entry positions, I did end the day with a position at 23.40 average on CGC, and I bought this morning on the break of 23. So added to that position, and then I spent all day scaling out, but I'm still in a partial position. I probably sold 3/4 of my entry to lock in profit because I'm trading against the trend, and the biggest factor as to why I locked in my profit on the way up, right there, 4-hour exponential resistance. So how we started this day, we could say even if the bulls bounce 5%, we're still going to be at the 4-hour exponential resistance. So what we have to see here is essentially a 4-hour higher low and higher high to convincingly get over these resistance levels. If the bulls are able to break 24.37, which they are doing in extended hours, but if we do that tomorrow, the most important next resistance for me is 25.48. So if we're going to see a inverse head and shoulders, it would look like this with the inability to break 25.48 resistance, pull back, hold the low of 22.76, and then change the 4-hour trend. I do believe that our temporary bottom is hit, just in the sense that I don't think we're going to break 22.76 this week. And I'm also watching this pattern, which you could call a falling wedge, but it's a bit of a channel as well on the 4-hour time frame. And look at where we're lining up. Exponential resistance, wedge resistance. If we reject, I will be looking to re-add positions that I sold on the way up. But like I said, I still have a position. I still have exposure. I'm in no rush to add on any strength. If I add, it will be looking for a 4-hour higher low to form for this bounce to try and get more follow through next week. Keep in mind, one thing I want to talk about is the word cheap. And I mentioned this during the live streams today, but the word cheap in the stock market, I hate that word. I understand what it means. If you're looking at fundamentals, cheap means price relative to what the market cap is or what the assets versus liabilities are. I understand where it comes from, but the word cheap is so meaningless. There is no substance behind it because it's completely dependent on perception, and the perception of the market can be completely independent of what fundamentals are. So if the S&P 500 breaks the August lows to start September and we get fear in the market, there's nothing saying CGC can't break $20. Obviously, it doesn't seem likely at this point that we're going to drop another 20%, but it's entirely possible. And if fear spikes in the market and we get a notable dump, we can absolutely head down towards $20 in CGC. So just be aware that the term cheap is so relative and meaningless that we have to always remind ourselves, something I always remind myself when I'm playing bounces, it can always go lower, which is why I scale out and lock in short-term profit knowing that either a 4-hour lower high is most likely or that we're going to reject from 4-hour exponential resistance. So this morning on CGC, really it was the sector bouncing all as one. We saw the quick pullback under 23, the S&P 500, most notably the financial sector. And if you're liking the bounce in the MJ sector today, you owe some thanks to the financial sector in the S&P 500 because they formed a triple bottom at support at the low of yesterday, and then they rocketed up, taking the S&P 500 with it. But CGC mimicked that move, and there was a distinct difference where CGC started to lose correlation with the S&P 500 bounce. And what happened was a double top. 2389 was the top of the bounce. Let's look at it on the 2-minute time frame, because what I saw happen was we hit 2389. We saw a very brief pullback, and then we went to test that resistance level again, and we saw an invisible ask. And what I mean by that is the amount of shares showing on the ask. Let's say it was 500 shares or 5,000 shares, whatever, and way more than 5,000 shares bought that ask, and it kept reloading. And as soon as I saw that happen, marking a double top at the high of the day, that was our temporary top. And from that moment on, the rest of the MJ sector held their bounces really well. They continued to mirror the S&P 500 strength, and CGC from that moment started to show a bearish correlation to the S&P 500. And if we pull up SPY, just to show you what I'm talking about. So this is SPY in the background. SPY hit the high of the day just after CGC had started pulling back from the high of the day, and then it hit a new high as CGC was dropping to lower lows. From there, correlations picked back up again, but that 10 minutes of action where CGC hits a new high of the day, and as CGC is hitting a new high of the day, as SPY as hitting a new high of the day, CGC at that point was over 1% below the high of the day. So the correlation started to favor the bears. The correlation changed again right here on the 2-minute time frame when we had a bullish reaction to a tweet saying the DEA, or what were they saying this time? Trump's administration is looking for feedback on rescheduling of marijuana. Same headline from March, the same headline, literally, and it's a fluff headline. It doesn't mean anything. It triggered the algos to react to it because it had the word marijuana and Trump in the headline, but that word Trump is just thrown in there for that sole purpose. It's a buzzword, and Trump has nothing to do with it. It's like, an example I gave in the chat room was, if national parks across the country raise their prices to get in $5, the headline would be, Trump administration raises national parks admission prices. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact that he's the president and a government agency is doing something. So it's a very similar fluff headline, in my opinion, that we saw with the DEA expanding research on marijuana headline. The algos are reacting to it. They read the headline and instantly the price is reflected in movement, as we saw in this 2-minute candle. But as far as big picture, is that notable news? Not really. So big picture, CGC, nice decent little close at the end of the day. Little hourly bull flag trying to confirm an extended hours. If we start tomorrow and cannot break 24.37 in the first 15 minutes of trading, expect profit taking. I expect the bulls will be able to break that resistance level. But if we can't break 25.48, we're just looking at a 4-hour lower high and that potential inverse head and shoulders pattern. Cron, bounce attempt. Hourly, has the trend changed? Is the first question we're asking on every individual name. The answer is no. The bulls have to hold 10.58 and break 11.24 to change the hourly trend. When we change the hourly trend, we zoom out to the daily, and we're looking at daily resistances of 10, make that 11.85 and 12.25. Bulls trying to put together 2 green days for the first time in over 2 weeks. 2 green days in a row. ACB, weaker bounce, and we closed right at the low yesterday. The low was 5.55. We closed 3 pennies above that. ACB is standing out as the weakest major Canadian MJ name on the bounce today. Hourly time frame, trying, again, extended hours, seeing a little bit of action, but have to hold 5.38 and break 5.65 to change the hourly trend, which means we zoom out. And on the daily time frame, I consider anything under 6.20 just a daily lower high. So that's what I'm talking about, where we could go 10% before we even get to daily resistance, which is why you better believe bears are waiting for another re-entry opportunity. And best case for bears is daily lower highs into S&P 500 bear breaks of support. Best case for bulls daily lower highs on most names into the S&P 500 breaking 294.15 and looking back up towards all-time highs. APHA, solid day. 583 support broke, but just barely. Have we changed the hourly trend? Bulls want a higher low and a bull break of 625 to start tomorrow. If we break 625, we zoom out to the daily, and anything under 680 is just a daily lower high. So we're still looking for that weekly higher low to form, but the daily trend has to change. And we're just looking for a daily lower high on this bounce at this point. TLRY, has the hourly trend changed? Nope. Support is 26.75. Bulls have to break 27.65 to change the hourly trend. Then we zoom out and look for a daily lower high compared to 32.40. OGI, just starting to get a bounce going after an all-out dump. Have we changed the hourly trend? Trying for an hourly higher low at the end of the day. Bulls have to break 434 tomorrow. Change the hourly trend. We zoom out to the daily and we look for a lower high compared to 528. VFF. I did play a little VFF as well today. I am no longer in a VFF position as I took profit in the 1070s. We have our low, high of the bull move, looking for an hourly higher low. Bulls want to hold 1045 and break 1088 tomorrow morning. Inverse head and shoulders pattern trying to form here as well. Trying to get over the hourly exponential resistance for the first time in a week plus. If we change the hourly trend, we zoom out. Anything under 1322 is a daily lower high. T-God, I like T-God. Not necessarily meaning I like it bullish, but I like it for clarity. Because we have a nice tightening equilibrium, and we have more support levels than a lot of other names. So 295 did break, but 293, we can consider that a double bottom. Now it's all about 332. If we do not break 332 on this move, it's just a daily lower high, and we look for the tightening range to continue into next week. And a break of this tightening range will be notable for clarity in the short term. Looking at it on a weekly perspective, bulls are trying for a weekly higher low, and if we can break 332, we'll be looking back up at the attempt of a weekly trend change with 369. Labs, really beat up, finally getting its bounce going. Hourly has to hold 468 and break 449 to change the trend tomorrow, and we're just looking for a daily lower high compared to 528. Curaleaf, initial bearish reaction to earnings, then the S&P 500 bounced, then CGC bounced, then Curaleaf bounced, then the CEO was on CNBC. And the CEO and the company is doing a good job of being at the forefront of the USMJ space because they're on CNBC when they have earnings or news announcements. Where are the other USMJ names as far as putting themselves out there? You got to be on CNBC if you want to be a household name with the herd and retail investors and traders. And only Curaleaf is who I see putting themselves out there. I don't know whether they're paying to do it or whether CNBC is just really interested in Curaleaf because of the size of the company. I don't know, but all I know is not seeing many other USMJ names with their CEOs getting exposure on CNBC. So we broke some resistance levels. We didn't break 976, which is the most important level for me. We got close to 959, but if you're going to look for a bounce, if you're going to see a 24% bounce from the low of the day to the high of the day, you're absolutely going to see profit taking when you're in a sector that's in a downtrend. So at this point, we are looking for an hourly higher low to form, and if we do not break 959 tomorrow, we'll have a daily inside bar. And if we pull back any more than 894, hourly equilibrium is very likely the most likely scenario. C-Web bounce underway. Has the hourly trend changed? Not really. We haven't consolidated significantly. 2185, you could call that an hourly higher low, but the bulls have to break 2234 tomorrow morning to get follow through. Then we zoom out and look for a lower high compared to 2580. OH, still barely hanging on. We haven't seen 2 green days in a row in a couple weeks. The weekly time frame is really just trading sideways. Most important range for me, 673 support and 769 resistance. And we're currently pretty much in the middle of that range. IAN closed at the high of the day, but it's still multiple daily inside bars. We haven't seen a break. Most important range for me is 312 support and 345 resistance. Have to break 345 to prove anything in the short term. TRUL, bounces underway. Have we changed the hourly trend? Nope. Higher low is 1050. Bulls have to break 1090. Then we zoom out and look for a lower high compared to 1145. MedMen, no love today. Closing week, still the equilibrium we're watching. Bulls must hold 241. Potential bottom fishing play off of that level if we were to drop down another 2-3%. And then we would look for a bounce. If 241 can hold, we'll look for a bounce and a lower high compared to 284. And GTII is getting back on the list for its notable mention today with high bull volume, a strong close, and we've already changed the hourly trend on this move yesterday and following through with it today. Short-term support is 1126. We've got 1182 resistance, and then we're looking up at 1195 and 1203. If we break 1203, we clearly break some daily lower high resistances, and that will be notable. And again, if we were going to draw a bit of a falling wedge here, it would look a little something like that on the bull break that took place. We'll see what the bulls can do with it, but it is standing out compared to USMJ names as far as the amount of bounce we've seen. So recap, hourly trend changes, breaks of the high of today are musts for the bulls tomorrow. Even if we get that, we're just looking for daily lower highs to form. It's not notable on the longer term daily and weekly time frames, and the bulls will have multiple weeks of follow through required to try and see a meaningful momentum shift with daily trend changes. So congrats to the bulls getting in on the bounce. As I said, the only position I'm in currently right now on this bounce play is CGC. After exiting a lot of profit, I'm very comfortable with my position. After exiting a lot of position in profit. And from that, it has erased those small losses that I was talking about the little stop outs from being a day or two too early. And now I will look to re-enter on a 4-hour high or low on CGC if I like the setup. So we'll check back in tomorrow and see if we get this follow through, keeping an eye on the S&P 500 4-hour equilibrium that's very clear at this point. And I'll see you tomorrow. Hope you have a good day, do good things. We'll end it with some more Iceland.